Let me see if I can get this right. My first time doing this at DNS-OARC, so forgive me if I hit the wrong button. I'm also going to apologize for the slides. When you're an executive at Akamai, the marketing team demands that they do the slideware for you, and you inherit it, and then you run with it. So we're going to stumble through a little bit. So here we go. I am the Director of Engineering for DNS at Akamai. If Akamai has done something wrong with DNS and you hate me for it, I'm going to remind you the code of conduct says you cannot stone me after the presentation. All right. So here we go. As all of you know, again, this is a hashtag marketing slide. DNS touches everything, right? It's a big, important part of the internet. We've been doing it for a long time. There's the good parts, the bad parts, and everything in between. And we're going to talk about a little bit here today is the bad parts and how sometimes with the configuration, the administration of DNS, what we're seeing is the bad parts are becoming easier. It's easier for the bad guys to do it. It's easier for us to make mistakes, and we're seeing it more and more. Availability, trust, security. That's what they expect from us with DNS. Those are the core tenets of DNS. That's what we try to do. Everyone at this working group, I'm sure, spends all of their time thinking about these things. How do we keep it on? How do we keep it safe? How do we make sure people trust us? How do we make it easy for these things to work, right? How do we get it happening? Well, configuration is how we do that, right? Making sure it's easy to configure, it's safe to configure, making sure the protocol is secure. These are all the things that we focus on every day as DNS engineers and operators. The problem we're seeing though, is it's actually not as easy as we thought it would be. We recently had an issue at Akamai with one of our customers that prompted us to do an analysis of 19,000 different financial institutions. We went out there, we looked at their zones, we ran an analysis, we created a scorecard for them. And what we found was actually really scary. We found that most people are dropping the ball when it comes to DNS security. They're not doing the proper things to keep records up to date. They're not monitoring, they're not managing, they're not doing the things that we would have expected them to do with all the tools that we've given them. And so when we looked around, it was not good. What we found was misconfigured or partially configured records. What we found was inconsistent adoption across all of the zones. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm not good with the mics. We saw just basic absence of just hygiene. Like, how often are you looking at these records, making sure that they're up to date? What are you doing with them? How are you actually maintaining them? Who's responsible for them? Which was probably the biggest thing that we saw. No one knew who owned a record. It was added, it was forgotten. It may have been from an acquisition. And we went through, and as we were doing the analysis, we found email spoofing, SPF misconfigurations, phishing vectors. All sorts of things were wrong with these zones. No one knew that they were wrong, which was the worst part. They're sitting there, there's risk. No one is paying attention. And so when we did this, the scariest part was, how do we fix that? What can we do for these folks to make it easier? Well, we didn't have a great answer, but we kept going. We went deeper in the analysis. We kept saying, well, what else is going wrong? Well, registry lock was off for financial institutions, which is the scary part, the things that we all depend on every day because the world's digital now. I don't know how many of you actually have a dollar bill or anything sitting in your pocket. Does anyone have physical currency sitting in their pocket right now? Or are you dependent on a credit card working for you to get home? I'd be willing to bet it's credit cards, right? So it's scary when we look at financial institutions that we depend on aren't doing the basics, and we're not doing anything to help them, right? And so when we go through this, we look at it. Failure is a big issue. 5% had a single name server record. And in many cases, it didn't work, but they didn't know it didn't work because they're not paying attention. They just put it in there, they hoped that it was fine, and they left it. We saw the same thing when it went down even further. Dangling CNAMEs. My God, dangling CNAMEs were everywhere. How many times has someone set up an AWS server and forgotten about it, right? They set it up one time. Marketing team said, point it at this IP or give it this CNAME. And they left it, but no one told them when they brought it down, which gives you the worst possible attack vector for a bad actor to come in behind the scene, register something against that, and now suddenly they own your zone. And you have no idea. And these are the things that we found that we said, oh my God, well, who's watching this? Who's paying attention? So we reached out when we were going through all this, we found out no one was. No one realized these things were sitting out there, that they were waiting and just happening behind the scenes. We found that more often than not, environmental complexity is the part that's really driving these folks down this path, which is the worst part. They're acquiring other businesses, they're merging, they're trying to simplify. At the same time, they're looking for diversification across vendors, right? Multi-vendors becoming a big thing. Compliance is driving them that way. But what we're finding is that it's hard for them to manage it. And in many cases, we're not helping because all of us are doing vendor lock-in, right? We want them to stick with us. We don't want them to use the other guy, because that's not in our best interest as businesses. But it is in our best interest as a community to do better here. How do we change this? How do we make this better? How do we make it so they can actually work across organizational silos, right? How do we make it easier for them to know who actually maintains these records? Who's responsible for them? Who do I talk to when this thing breaks? Which is a big question. We have that problem in Akamai sometimes. I don't know who owns that record. I just know they told us to open a ticket and create it, right? But I didn't follow up to figure out who's the guy who owns it long term. And so when you look at these things, it's scary and it's easy because we as people forget. We do things, we move on, we don't pay attention. And so lack of visibility, lack of automation, lack of just basic hygiene is what we came across. And these are the scariest parts, in that we are doing all the things at an industry level to give them the tools to be secure, but we're not giving them the tools to maintain it once it's secure. And I actually loved a lot of the talks I saw this week so far with like DNSSEC and automation. I think all of you guys are doing fantastic work there. It's great to see that. But that's only one part of the problem. And so we go through, this is what happens, right? DNS configuration led to a lot of these. A lack of configuration, a lack of hygiene, a lack of maintenance led to a lot of these. And some of these, Akamai is right in the middle of it. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not trying to excuse any of the behavior. It's not just everyone else. We're in there too, which led us down the path of how do we do better here? And so when you think, how do we protect ourselves, but how do we also build trust? This is a big part of trust. We talk about DNSSEC adoption, which I love from Barbara's talk. DNSSEC adoption is a big deal. But the problem is people don't trust. They don't believe it can work. They don't believe that we can do better. So how do we do better? Well, that's the question. This is one of the things we're asking today is, how do we raise the bar? What can we do different? How can we enable the industries to move forward and create consistent record validation, renewals? How do we cross-team coordinate for them? How do we make it easier for them to do these things between SecOps, NetOps, DevOps, the marketing guys focused on ops, but also marketing, which is a big deal. How do we make sure that these folks are staying engaged, that they're maintaining their records, that when things go down, that we're monitoring for all of these things, that we're doing better alerting, reporting pipelines? And a lot of these things are heading in that direction, but not all of them are there yet. And so one of the things we're asking here, and Akamai is actually working on some technology behind this, but we're only one company and we're not the only one who should be involved in this, which is why we're making the call to action here for everyone else, is how do we create open frameworks for posture evaluation? What can we do as a group that'll make it easier for the administrators? And let's be honest, some of them are non-technical administrators. We're giving them GUIs, they enter records and they move on with their day. They don't understand it and they don't expect to understand it. We don't expect them to understand it because we're trying to make it simple for them. So the question is, what else can we do to make it so they can maintain these things over time, that we as a community feel good about it, our financial institutions are safe and secure, and these guys feel good about what they're doing, that they understand what they're doing, they understand how to maintain it, and they can keep it going forward. So when we look at it, really, this is the call to action. Managing DNS configuration is challenging, and it's only gotten harder, right? We've expanded on the protocol over the past 20 years. It's not getting simpler, it's getting more complex. But at the same time, what are we doing to ease the complexity for the folks who have to administer it? What are we doing to maintain and manage and make sure that they're updating their records over time, that they're doing some basic sanity checks against these things and not letting them sit and become stale, right? What can we do? How can we enhance the protocol to do these things? These are the questions that we're asking. We don't have the answers, but these are the questions that we're asking. And so we're hoping here today to make a call to action to all of you. What can you do as a working group to make these things better? How can we help the community? How can we help each other? How can we work as a group of people who care to solve all of these problems in some coherent, seamless way? And that's it. Any questions?
Thank you. Do we have any questions for Sean?
Hey, Sean, Ross Gibson from Infoblox. So I totally agree with you that DNS hygiene is a huge problem, and it's something that needs to be pointed out. It's something that Josh Kuo and I talked about in our book back in 2023. It's something we've added to the new version of 800-81 that hopefully will be released soon. I work with customers a lot, and a lot of them, like you said, are completely uneducated about simple things like DMARC and other things like that. So I think a lot of it is education, and a lot of it is network administrators, they get pushed into being DNS administrators with absolutely no education.
Exactly.
And so I think education is one of the biggest pieces of it, knowing that DNS hygiene even needs to be a thing. And then, the rest of the industry then giving them the information of, okay, what does good DNS hygiene look like? And just keeping an eye on your records and actually taking care of cleaning stuff up when it is decommissioned.
I agree with that. I think that's only part of the problem, though. Like, we looked at a big financial institution that works with Akamai on a regular basis, and one of the things that many of you probably read the Krebs story about leaving the T off .net, .ne, and then that registration ran around the internet. It was in Russia for a while, it was in China for a while, and we see that even the best of people can make mistakes, and we don't have the tools to catch them and call them out.
Oh, totally agree.
Yeah.
I worked for a large financial institution for many years running their DNS. So yeah,
Yeah.
I understand and fully. Yeah, but I totally agree. I absolutely support what you're calling out. We as an industry need to do a better job of helping the typical administrator do better at their job.
I appreciate that. If you want to work together on this, let us know.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks.
Matthijs making, how can we do better is what you asked. I think you're in the right community. We have the right people in the room already. You can talk to each other. You can share the information, and ideally that would come to some document that other people can use as well. Or Ross already mentioned documents, so maybe it's just a matter of exploring and figuring out if there are best practices documents already and if they are up to date, etc.
I think that's part of it. Yeah. I guess the question also is there some simplification we can do to make it easier? I feel like, me personally, and I'm just an engineer, an old engineer, I feel like we keep stapling and bolting more on without removing complexity behind the scenes. So what is it we can do to simplify things for these folks at the same time? Is a bigger question. Is there things that we need to remove,
Right.
reduce the complexity? Is there more we need to add to make it easier to, monitor your posture? It's a question. I don't know that I have the answer, but like you said, this is the right community, hence I'm bringing the question to you guys. You tell me, what do you think?
Go ahead in the break after this. I can.
Yeah, it's a big topic. We had been running .ua registry for GovUA, and I'll tell you this: we did internal analysis, published reports, not to the public. I don't even want to say how many Russian-originated autonomous system numbers or IP addresses linked to autonomous system numbers registered in Russia we found. That was done in 2022. And I would say this: I don't expect this general banking sysadmin to configure CAE, TLSA, DMARC, and DKIM, or SPF for that matter. Like he can put the TXT record for SPF, but my best advice to an institution like that: just use Cloudflare. That's what most of Ukrainian government actually do. We monitor that the ratio of Cloudflare hosted domains in GovUA space has risen dramatically. I cannot tell you numbers. I don't want to tell numbers, but I can actually imagine that. Yeah. Again, I'm not working for Cloudflare. We are using their service, disclaimer, but yeah, I'm not a shareholder either. And so the camel is just too difficult to handle. Deleg is coming. That's going to be.
Deleg will probably help, but again, it goes back to how do we
increase complexity? Yes, it would definitely help.
Yeah.
Like you cannot remove an S record if you have Deleg record.
Yeah. Parts of it will get easier there for sure.
In 20 years. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Peter Alexis, Power DNS. I just spent 3 years in a big enterprise doing DNS. So there's two things. I think one of them is a big lack of visibility for the enterprises. Even if there is a DNS admin like me, it's still within every enterprise a very fragmented space. I managed to get a lot of the things pulled together, but I think if we as a community want to do something about it, we need to write or create some automation or tools that allow us to make things visible, to do something very simple to start with and then do the hard things. For instance, I wrote a partial resolver in Go just to do like chase CNAMEs that we had in our authoritative zones just to see if they were dangling or not. And then if they were dangling, we would stick them in a time series database. And then if they were dangling for a week, we would remove them automatically. And these kinds of tools. So unfortunately, I was not able to release that as open source. But I think tools like that would really help. And especially I think Akamai and most SaaS DNS providers have an API where you can just pull all the CNAMEs and then do all this checking offline,
Yeah,
and then create some reports. You could even do some executive summaries on that as well. 'Cause
exactly.
that really improves the posture. Because I got a lot of buy-in by showing them like, hey, listen, this is a problem. Security says so as well. And here are the numbers, and that
Yep.
gives you the leverage as well to actually get the hygiene train running.
I like that. And we've done that with the report that we ran, the analysis that we ran. We brought it to the financial institutions that work with us, and we said, dear God, you might want to look at what you've done here. The
Mhm.
problem is we also didn't want to turn it into a sales cycle with our competitors. We didn't want it to look like we use this to go beat people up. And that was really the concern with it, is if we go too far, it looks like we're just trying to beat up other people for not being on top of this. And that wasn't our goal. And I think you're right that maybe, to your point and what you're proposing there, maybe there's something we should do in the authoritative space. Maybe there's an addition to the authoritative implementations that we can bring to the wider industry that says check for dangling CNAMEs and have your server print out an error if it finds one, right? There's little things that we can do as a community, I think, that make it better. And I love that idea. That's brilliant.
Yeah. All right. Thanks.
Hi, Dave Knight, Ultra DNS. I really like that. This is very good. I spent some time in the last year doing outreach to Ultra DNS customers, talking about zone content and how they use the service. And I think something that we should keep in mind, that while this is a great community to start this conversation, your list of examples of risks you see in the DNS data are, they're not necessarily DNS things. They're, related to the mail service, and the guys who run the DNS, or the relationship with the DNS vendor, that's maybe not their data to touch.
That's exactly
So the
right.
message that, there needs to be a way to find a way to like reach through those DNS contacts that you have out to the different groups within the organization that own the stupid DNS tricks or that own the mail configuration, and a way to get that to them if you want to actually make the changes happen.
That's exactly right. And that's one of the reasons I'm bringing it up, is maybe we need a new type of resource record that attaches ownership to certain record sets. I don't know. Like, it's a question that I'm throwing out there. And we'll find out as we go, but I think you're onto something, right? How do we delegate or designate ownership for these records to make sure they're maintained, that people actually keep on top of them?
Right.
Yeah, we haven't figured it out. We're hoping ideas come and we'll go there. I don't know.
Cool.
Thank you for your talk, Alex Rebellis from ENS. I think there's two issues that you raised. One is making it easier for people to do this, and the other is making it a priority for people to do this. And I think with respect to the prioritization of this, my suggestion is I think you should talk to insurance companies, cyber liability providers, right? Because if DNS hygiene was a condition for maintaining coverage of your policy, or a condition precedent for even an acquisition of cyber liability insurance policies, people will start to prioritize it. And that should be what changes the industry for the better. That was the whole idea of cyber liability underwriting. If you have this data and you can quantify it in a way for underwriters to potentially understand, that could really make a difference.
I like that idea. We actually created a DNS hygiene score just based on our own analysis, but my hope was, coming out of this, maybe the broader group could come up with ideas as to how do we do that?
Yeah.
And how do we bake that into the software? Maybe it's part of the recursive algorithms. Maybe it's something that the authorities report on themselves. I don't know, but it's a great idea. And then if insurance providers require that of institutions so that they could look at it, they could vet it, they could validate, that's a great idea.
Yeah. I mean, it's quantifiable risk. This should be part of their equation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
See, this is why lawyers are good, not bad. All right.
Yeah, that's right. Every once in a while. You got it. Thank you.
So I'm going to comment that I really like that. It's follow the money and it's follow the human nature. I have one last question for you.
Yep.
Do you have hard cash in your pocket to get home with?
I do not, no. I'm all credit cards, so if the institutions go down, I'm stuck. But my grandmother was Swedish, so I'll just figure out where I'm from and we'll go from there.
So thank you very much.
Thank you.